Hello everyone, how are you today? So today, happy Monday. I have, as we're doing at the moment, I've got some interesting new waxes that I'm going to show you in just a minute. But what I'll do is I'll go through some of the orders that have come in over the weekend. So again, I've just picked a handful of stuff, just bits and pieces to show you the variety of products that we offer and the variety of products that customers are buying. So first up, we've got Mark. So Mark, at the moment, if you spend over £50, you get a free 50 ml wax. So this is the first of the announcements. The new 50 ml wax that you will receive will be the 80% T1 Carnauba wax that we offer. So not bad as a free gift. And then you also receive a 50 ml of our luxury shampoo. Now this will give you about 1 or 2 washes. One of the tricks, guys, would be if you've got a 20 litre bucket. I know most of you guys know this already, but if you're not making an Instagram or a YouTube video, just half fill the bucket. You don't have to go all the way up to 20. You could stop at 15 or 12 or 10, depending on how big the car is and how soiled the car is. So you don't need to go all the way up to 20. It does feel good, dunking your sponge into an arm length of water. But the reality is you probably don't need to. If you've got a grit guard there and it is the right grit guard for the bucket, then the accumulation of dirt, the heavier stuff, will be circulating at the bottom anyway. And again, another tip is you're washing your car, again, lots of you guys know this anyway, is just give your mitt a rub over the grit guard and that will just loosen up some stuff. I tend to, at the moment, I'm using a noodle wash mitt. But you can use what you want. Back in the day, the big thing would have been lamb's wool mitts. And prior to that, weirdly enough, I bought a boar's hair brush. You heard that right, brush and boar. It's very, very soft. It was very popular in the States. I think it was quite expensive. It was about £50 or £70, all said and done, because we had to import it. Back then, we didn't have, there were no clean your car. There wasn't, not even Maguire's UK was established back then. So I had to import all my stuff from overseas. And that's where the birth of the Porter cable. So the first ever dual action machine that was available was a machine called the Porter cable, and everything after that was just a version of that. So Porter cable, they were the first, they were the originators. So you had to import it, and then you had your 110 inverter, the big sort of building site thing that you use. And again, I had one of them, changed the cable on it, blah blah blah, did all that. But most of you that know me know that I quite like a rotary. So my favourite machine would be a rotary. But it's just what you're happy using. If you're happier, the dual action, for all intents and purposes, for most of us out there, is a safer option, simply because it will take longer to burn through with a traditional pad. Obviously now you've got denim pads, you've got microfibers, you've got a whole array of pads that we didn't used to be able to get. So again, that increases the cutting ability. Certainly with the microfiber pads have got quite a good cut to them. The only downside of the dual action would be typically they are quite noisy, they sort of rattle, even the good ones, because just the movement of the motor. So if it's just you can imagine this yourself, if it's moving in one direction, it's typically quieter, but because it's getting thrown all over the place, there is. And the other thing that really kills it for me is the level of vibration. I really can't take the vibration of the dual action, because I just kind of feel that I've got a machine that vibrates too much, makes too much noise, and it doesn't cut as quickly as the rotary would. You're normally having to use a more aggressive setup. And the other thing is, which I really don't like, are the silicon-based machine polishes, simply because it's really difficult to tell where you're at. Obviously, everyone has their own opinion on that, and guys will say, oh, I just use IPA, wipe it halfway through. But what you're doing is you're wiping away possibly compound that hasn't broken down fully. And if you're in the fortunate position that you've got a German car, pretty much just a German car nowadays, then the paint's quite hard. But if you've got a British car or Japanese, South Korean, now we're getting an influx of Chinese vehicles as well, the paint will be quite soft. and the paint just won't hold up to that level of a sort of checking up and wiping. It'll leave tracer marks and things like that. So I do much prefer a water-based system, just simply because the water doesn't hide the defects as much as the silicon-based products. And they have silicon in them simply so that you can run them for longer. They are predominantly made for the dual action market, but obviously it's not great business wise to run with, a few different polish lines. So a lot of manufacturers have now moved to the silicon based stuff, which you don't need if you're using a rotary. There are other ways of increasing the cutting time if you want with a rotary, but typically you don't need it. It's good practice. In my opinion, silicon really gums up the pads as well. That's why you see all this sort of gumminess on the pads. That's normally your silicon because it's very sticky stuff. But good practice, the way that I'd learned on a rotary is that you would spur it out, you would stop, you would check the temperature of the panel. So typically if you're using a rotary, it's a wee bit slower process in your head. You're kind of there all the time. You need to be switched on. So lots of Red Bull and coffee. Right, okay, so Mark, you've got the Eclipse, which is just hiding over in this corner here. A couple of people came in for Eclipse, so this is an interesting one, and so far, again, it's interesting to see what people have bought. So we've got a brand new collection of waxes that go from 50% all the way to 80% T1. So Mark has got all of this stuff here. Bearing in mind it's a decent T1. It's $64.99 for everything. That includes the postage as well. So he's got a free sample wax at 50ml, free sample luxury car shampoo, and then he's got his 200ml 50% T1 wax. Now, in terms of usability, 50% should be quite soft. That's what you would expect, quite a soft, malleable wax, nice and buttery soft in the paint. But as you go up to the 80%, you will get a harder wax. However, because, blow our own trumpet a bit here, because we've been making waxes for close to 2 decades now, the 80% isn't a difficult wax to use because there's things that you can do by keeping it 80%, but there's things that you can do to make the wax still workable. It's not, like a block of concrete, so to speak. Because this is the kind of thing that that's good to have in your hands, so to speak, to see it for yourself, is that the 80% of the T1 is only the wax proportion of the blend. It's not 80% of this, because that would only leave 20% for other stuff, and that would be rock solid. So again, it's to let you see that T1, it gives you a couple of different avenues. So one of them is, it may, for those of you that are interested in our bespoke service, it'll let you try the various T1 content before you then go on and buy the bespoke wax. So you can try a 50, a 60, a 70, 80, whatever it might be. Now, 80 is kind of where I stopped. You could go higher, but the main thing with T1 is it's just such a small part of a wax blend. It's a small part of the story. So I don't see a great benefit of pumping it up to 85-90%, because that only then leaves another 10% for other waxes, which arguably are better. T1 is majority. T1 is really in our blends used for the hardness, because we've got other stuff that we use to bring in the various looks. That's why there are so many waxes to choose from. So your order should go out today, Mark. Vasil, we covered yours on Friday, I think. So your guard is just getting poured today. So again, that will go out today. Just be careful, guys, when you're ordering. If you put second class postage in, it will go obviously second class. So it'll take a couple of days to arrive. Whereas if you choose the first class service, it's normally there the next day. But just keep an eye on the website, and that will tell you exactly when, or it will tell you roughly when you should be expecting your order. It will depend what you've got. So for instance, we've got Cameron here. We just did a bespoke wax for Cameron. He's the owner, proprietor of EKJ Auto Valet. That's in Mansfield. So if you're in that area, guys, make sure you give Cameron a shout, because he's obviously got a good eye for stuff. So basically, Cameron has got the 80%. So he's went for the 80% T1. Again, this will be an interesting thing. It'll be interesting to hear from customers their take and what they think of the wax. So the 80% is getting made right now, and I've got a couple of wee extras that I want to show you. Next up, he's got a 1-of-1 wax, which is very, very, very nice wax, and that is a wax called Ebony. So Ebony is like a kind of show car concourse style wax, and it comes in this jar, which we've not used before, and it's quite big, so you'll get about 3 to 350 ml, 350 ml of wax in there. And then the rest of the stuff is all freebies, so 350 ml wax, 350 ml sample liquid, free 200 ml car wax. In this case it's RPM, but if you've got RPM we can swap it out for something else around about the same value, and a free polo shirt as well. So it's always worth giving the website a visit. We do try and change things quite often, so the polo shirt's quite a new addition to the website. Obviously the 350 ml will now change to 80, so that's the top T1 collection wax that we offer. So Kyle, all the way from VA, he's also ordered an 80% T1 wax. He's got a free sample liquid, and he's also got a free sample wax. And that, to give you an idea, you guys in the States, because we do have a lot of customers over there, and they're always keen to know shipping costs and things like that. So Kyle, all in, has paid just over $80 for that, and that's shipped. So that'll be with Kyle in 2 to 3 days, and that's with UPS. So it is very affordable. The shipping on that was $12. So you probably find you're not far off when you're actually buying it within the US. Our UPS prices are really keen just because we do send so much stuff overseas, so we get really good rates with UPS. There's another one, Calabasas. I know this from Kim Kardashian. It's ridiculous how these influencers infiltrate your life. Anyway, so this is a really nice order going to a lovely part of the world. Those of you that know, I love the west coast of the States. I'm also quite keen on Florida as well. That was back when we first started the company, the majority of our customers were American, and that was the state that I was looking to relocate everything to, just simply because we had so many customers over there at the time, and it just seemed like the right move. And then there was a financial crisis in the UK, thanks to our mismanaged government, and that's never changed. I don't think we've ever come out of that crisis, to be honest. But anyway, there we go. YouTube, don't censor that, please. Let the people know. So what have you went for? So you've got our luxury shampoo. That's really nice. It's a Carnauba-based shampoo. Very easy to use, nice and sudsy. You've got an interior dressing called Treat, which I shall just fetch for you just now. So Treat contains a plasticizer. So what that does is it helps keep your plastic soft. But the flip side of this, guys, is, because I saw this quite a lot when I was in the States, quite a lot of cracked dashes, and it's just due to the heat and the UV. So Treat will really help with that. It's difficult to prevent it because the sun is extremely strong, but this will definitely help. So it cleans and protects in one step. So it's a nice one-step easy to use product. Next up, we've got Rim. This is our alkaline based alloy wheel cleaner. This is a 500 ml, and this is absolutely filled to the gunnels by the sounds of it, right to the very top. This is a great product, so you can dilute this a lot more than what we say on the website, just simply because people that are looking after their cars more frequently, you can dilute your stuff. You'll know this already. You can dilute your stuff a lot more than you can than what's on the website. A bottle of Pure, that is a great choice. So Pure is our best-selling product. It's a paint cleaner, extremely easy to use, loved by the professionals, enthusiasts, weekend warriors. It's just it does its job so well. So what it does, it decontaminates the paintwork. It catches the stuff that the other products don't. So if you use a decon shampoo, you clay bar the car, etc. Everything aside from machine polish it, make sure you use this because you'll be shocked at what's still left on the paint. Because again, iron fallout isn't capable of removing organic compounds and fallout. Tar and glue remover does a good job, but only to a certain extent. You will need some kind of abrasive in there as well. So that's where this comes in. It's very easy to use. You can use it via dual action, rotary, and by hand. If you use it via dual action with a microfiber pad, you will get some cutting ability from it. And if you use it by rotary with a polishing pad, again, you'll get some cutting ability. So it perfects your paintwork. This is the thing. It's the step you can't miss out. You can miss out Titan, you can miss out Cloak, but you can't miss Pure, because it's the difference between you thinking, "Well, that looks really good," to the paint, to you looking at the paint thinking, "That's the best the paint's ever looked," and that is what something like this is capable of doing. So obviously there's a lot of talk about final step products in terms of what do they add to the paint. Now, traditional final step products, they're not engineered the same way that our products are. So my thing has always been waxes. I've always been interested in the final stage and not so much the sealants, because there's not a lot you can do with them. But in terms of waxes, there are so many ingredients, so many different blends that you can make. So again, this one here is very, very interesting. So this is Rosso. Sorry, 2 bottles of Pure you've got there. So Rosso was specifically made for an older Ferrari, and weirdly enough, it was from the States, and it was from California, and that's all I can tell you. Anyway, so it's got some really good anti-UV properties in there. It's got some filling ability. It's very, very high gloss. It's just completely different. It's like, if you've always driven a Toyota Camry and then suddenly you go out and buy the Lexus LS and you think, right, okay, there's a difference. That's what this is like. It's not to say that the stuff you've used before isn't good enough, because the Toyota Camry is like one of the most, I think, the top selling cars in the world, not just in a certain country. So again, they could be really popular products. Every second person that's into cars could have it in their garage. The difference is the way that we look at the products. That's probably the difference. So I look at them from quite a scientific point of view, and I'm also aware of how much we can engineer. It's like anything. You can engineer your food to perform a certain way. You can obviously engineer a car. You can engineer materials. So there's nothing to stop you engineering something like this, because all it is ingredients. You just want it to do a certain thing, and to do that certain thing, you need to know the ins and outs, and that's really where the secret is in making a good wax. It's it's just experience. That's all it is, and it takes a really, really long time. It took. I mean, we just made a wax called Samaya last tail end of last year, so that you could argue that took us about 19 years to get there. So it's like everything, look at the Bugatti Veyron and you look at the old Bugattis. Things typically in manufacturing will move forward. Obviously at the moment there's a massive issue with quality, simply because so much stuff is not up to the standard that it should be. There's a real competition between price and items. This isn't really applicable to the detailing industry, but you'll see it. The cars that you're buying now, the models are not quite as good as they used to be. The materials are not quite as good. But again, it's back to this old thing of eco-friendly materials, trying to get stuff that's, the best of both. And we are obviously very pro. I'm a keen outdoorsman, so I'm very pro environment. But there is a balance if you're providing a service and a product. It can't just be 100% save the save the planet. There has to be a balance between providing you with. There's no point, for instance, me wearing organic clothing in the factory if I'm absolutely freezing and it tears. It only lasts 2 or 3 weeks. There's got to be some kind of balance. The other thing that's very important is using the right ingredient. That astounds me, the amount of times that you see water-based external dressings, that they will never be as strong as the oil-based stuff. Yes, it would be better if it was water-based, but bearing in mind some of the chemicals that are in these water-based ingredients are far worse than the oil-based stuff. Far worse than the oil-based stuff. If you have any time, look at the SDS sheets for yourself, guys. And this goes for anything. We were in the supermarket the other day. We're picking up just some bits and bobs. And I started to look at the ingredients of squash, or what we call up here diluting juice. And it would frighten the daylight. And the fact that this is given to kids, there are tests. Obviously, we are very careful about what we produce because I'm in contact with it every day. I'm inhaling it. The other guys are. And then once it gets to customers, it's the same. So we are very cautious about the chemicals that we use. There are always alternatives. Typically, the most dangerous chemicals are the cheapest. That's rule of thumb. They're the highest processed, and it kind of goes the same for food. The more processed your food is, typically the more dangerous it is for your system. But anyway, that's for personal trainers or whatever to discuss. We're only here for the lax. I remember a history teacher telling me that people used to, and certainly in Britain, suppose this would be everywhere, the water was so infected that people would sooner drink beer than they would water, simply because of the rate of infection. And the other thing, especially in built-up areas like London and Glasgow and Edinburgh and stuff like that, people would wear flowers on their lapel because the stench of raw sewage and stuff was so bad. So again, just proper PPE. I know you might think, I feel a bit silly wearing goggles or whatever, but trust me, you do not want to get this alkaline alloy wheel cleaner in your eye. It's very, very sore. The same again, if you're using a lot of alkaline products, protect your hands, just because they will dry out and they'll crack. And you're only cleaning the car for, an hour, a couple hours, but you've got to use your hands all week. So that's the way to try and, you might look a bit daft for an hour or so. It used to be the same back when I was younger. There was a real push for kids to wear helmets on their bikes, and I remember you would take your helmet off the minute you get round the corner just because none of your friends were wearing it. But now when I think about that as an adult, you think that was a bit daft. Again, it's just just one of these things. So what else have we got? Veronica, so you've come in for a Le Mans 70ml. It's an unusual size because it's a slightly unusual jar. As you can see, slightly different to what we normally offer. So again, your order will go out today, Veronica. Next up, we've got Mackie's. I do hope this is oh no, it's not Guildford. I was going to say, I was hoping it was the Scottish family that make ice cream and chocolate and such like. I don't know why, just because. I want to. So half a litre of pure. Again, that's just off the eBay store, so nice and easy. If you're on eBay, you can just add it to the cart. What have we got? Stephen Deschamps. I've never shipped here before, and your state is interesting. So let me see where it is. NH. What is NH? New Hampshire? No, I have now. You're the first customer from New Hampshire. So you're up north of Boston. I had an English teacher, Mrs. Baxter. If you watch these videos, Mrs. Baxter, hello. And she was my first opening to America. So I started, I'm sure she was from Boston, big Irish community in Boston. They get about. The interesting thing is we've got customers all over the States. I'm just looking at a map just now. It's weird when you when you do this as a living, it gets quite funny about, just looking at where people, like the States where people stay and things like that. And it probably inspires a lot of holidays as well. I'm quite a big fisherman, so I'm wanting to go to the big Bass Pro Shop, which is in, so the biggest one's in the Pyramid, I think, from what I know, but they are extending, I'm getting mixed up now, I think they're extending the one in Tennessee, and obviously they've got all the country music and stuff. Because the last time I went to the States, I hired a car that was not suitable for the road. So this time if I go to Bass Pro Shops, I'm going to get a pickup, because I think I shall fill it with fishing stuff. And it'd be quite nice just to check out some of the detailing products over there as well, because that was a lot of the stuff that I used to buy was over there. It was back in the day, it would have been like Clear Coat Vanilla Mousse. That was a big seller back then. What else was there? Loads of stuff. Einzett. I don't think they exist anymore. They're gone. They were a German. The funny thing is, quite a lot of European-based names, but European sounding names, but American companies. So yeah, but again, it was just I could never really find something that. I had a silver car at the time, and obviously silver's notorious for muting the flake. And no matter how much I spent, I could never find a wax. I didn't want a sealant. I just didn't get the same enjoyment. So I wanted a wax, and that was kind of what pushed me to make the first wax. And then it went from there. I had a blue car, then another blue car. Most of them have been darker colours. I've got a silver car just now, which I'm not overly enamoured about, because silver's not really that rewarding. Typically what I do is I put Titan and then Mercury, and that's the best it will look, unless I use Samire. So you'll get Samire will give you a really wet look, but obviously the darker colours, just it's a wee bit easier to see the differences in the waxes with the darker colours, just because the lighter colours really sort of can become a wee bit glary. If you do own a white car though, we do have a wax called Blanc, which is really popular. So it dissipates the light through the clear coat. It slows the light down and means that you get lots of gloss, rather than that sort of like if you get a rental car and it's white and you can't look at it in the sun. So it kind of alleviates that to a certain extent. The other thing that's probably worth mentioning, guys, is our waxes don't yellow. So the thing that causes the yellowing isn't actually the wax content. I'm not going to tell you what it is, simply because it took me a wee while to figure it out for myself. And it's something that a lot of companies will say anti-wax. A lot of people that, like your ceramic companies that are maybe not interested in wax, will say, oh, your wax yellows. Some wax is yellow. Some wax is yellow. Not ours. Not ours. So keep our name out your mouth. Right, okay, so Gary, you've come in for armour, which I'll need to pour. It's always the same on a Monday, guys. You get absolutely sorry, I'm just flipping these about. So Cameron, we went through your order. Need to get your plaque for Ebony, so probably looking at Wednesday. Marcus, your plaques have arrived for Solstice, December and Pioneer, so they'll go out today. And I think that was all that I picked out today. It was just a few, because I've got some waxes on the brew at the moment. So what have we got here? Last but not least, it's always good paying attention when you're pulling bottles out. Last but not least, we've got Stephen. Yeah, so Stephen is the one that was in New Hampshire. Sorry, Stephen. I got totally distracted by the fact that we had never sold a product to New Hampshire. Um, and that then took me down a country lane. So, cleanse. So cleanse, I would say, in my opinion, is probably one of the best leather cleaners that is available on the worldwide market. So not just in the UK. It's extremely good at what it does. The trick to using this is spray it onto a cloth, agitate over the leather. You'll see instant results. The next thing you want to do is use a microfiber, especially the key to this is do not use a coloured microfiber when you're cleaning your leather, because if any dye comes off and it goes onto your cream or ivory leather, it's a nightmare to get off. It's very much like a dye transfer, that type of thing. And it's not, people used to say, oh, cheap denim. Weirdly enough, it's not. Really expensive denims have, you might remember this company from back in the day, Japanese company called Evisu or Evisu, and the jeans were like £200, and they used to transfer like nothing on earth. So they were really really dark, and they would transfer onto sofas and car leather and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily to do with the fact that it's a £10 pair of jeans out of Asda. That it doesn't always sort of tie in. The only thing I would recommend is if you do have seats that suffer from, and it can also be a personal problem as well, if you're a bit of a leg sweater, stick to cords and chinos and that type of thing. If you do find, we get it a lot of customers that stay in warm climates, one of the things they have issues with would be sun cream transfer. So if they're wearing shorts in the car, so it can be the arms on the armrest, that type of thing, especially if you've got if your partner uses the, what do you call this stuff, tan accelerator, like the fake tan stuff in the sun cream, then that can be a bit of a monster to get out. But again, cleanse can get right through that, simply because it breaks through it's like a degreaser type of thing, so it'll break through the colouring quite well. Again, I've had some cars. There was a Mercedes CLS that we had for a while, and the leather hadn't been cleaned for a couple of years at least, and I used this on, and fair enough, it was at a point where the leather had started to wear, and you could see it had started to grain and things like that. Now, once it's gotten to that stage, there isn't really a leather cleaner out there that will bring it back. That's really a transfer or a recover job, because the leather's essentially damaged beyond repair by that point. But even with this stuff, I was amazed at how much brighter the car was, and just how dull the leather looked before. So it was a kind of, I don't know what the correct name is, but it was a kind of ivory colour. And once it looked grey, I actually thought the leather was grey. And it wasn't dirty, it was just stuff. It was just, coming in and out from the rain, your coat sweat, whatever it is, it's just general wear and tear, I guess. But this brought it back, and I was shocked at how clean it was. The other thing that I used to good effect was thread. So again, the carpet in that car, which cream carpets always, they're really difficult to keep clean unless you're one of these guys who you're on top of it all the time, and it's difficult to do. So the carpet, again, I just thought the carpet was grey, because I hadn't seen a cream carpet in a long time. I think the car was a 2014, so creams kind of went out of fashion at the moment, I guess. Most of the carpets are now black. The good thing about a lighter carpet is you can see the stains and you can see the dirt, so you can actually make sure the car's nice and clean. But that's what I would say. That night when I was driving home, I'd cleaned the seats and I'd obviously cleaned the inside. You can see all this on YouTube, by the way. I could breathe better, so that shows you just how much stuff was in the carpet. But if you think about it, you're bringing everything you've walked outside, and maybe in your office, if you're in a factory, or you go into shops and whatever, and you've got all that dirt in the bottom of your feet, Then you bring it into the car. Now, I'm not a sort of germaphobe or anything like that by any means of the matter, but the colour of the water after I'd extracted the carpets was horrendous. So yeah, and it's good if you suffer from allergies and stuff like that. It's great to keep on top of that, because most of your allergies, even though they're airborne, the minute you get in and start shuffling your feet again, the stuff comes up, and you'll get things like you'll get mites in your. That's why it's always good if you're using your. This is another great tip, guys, or I think so. Sound like Donald Trump here. If you're using your indoor vacuum, like the vacuum that you would use in your house, and you're using it in the car, I know it's more costly. You can get replica bags on Amazon. So if you've got like a Miele or something like this, you can get the cheaper bags on Amazon. Use different bags, because you may well be bringing in some critters and eggs inside the house. So one of the tips there, don't ask how I know this. We had to throw a Hoover out because of this. I've no idea what it was, but I went to use a Hoover and it was covered in wee tiny white things. So obviously something had been brought into the car, and whatever it was had then hatched. So if you can, you'll get these in the States as well. But so in the UK, there's quite a decent brand. You've got Titan, Parkside by Lidl as well, absolutely fine if you're just doing a weekly vacuum. McAllister, that's B&Q's own make again, or I don't think Airbauer have a. There would be Tool Station as well. Any of these vacuums. The other thing is, so they're allowed. Our newest house vacuum, something like 800 watts. It's dire. It's absolutely horrendous. It's like having a 0.5 litre engine in a car. It's hopeless. You see these like 1 litre Skoda Octavias and stuff like that. They must be a nightmare to drive. I can't, a litre. Anyway, so the vacuum that we've got, I think I'm so obsessed with the power because I watched a lot of Home Improvement as a kid. So Tim the Toolman Taylor has a lot to answer for. But anyway, so the vacuum that we've got is about 12 or 1300 watts. You can get higher, but 12 or 1300 watts is pretty decent. The other thing is it's wet and dry. So if you've got kids, you can leave the bag out, put the filter cover on, and just tip the Hoover out. Keep the Hoover in the garage or a shed or something like that. And you're not cross-contaminating, especially if you've got, you know what it's like. You pick them up from nursery, tissues are on the ground, they eat, and you find stuff lying all over the car. So it's quite a good Hoover because it's quite hardy. So again, Tool Station, Screwfix, that type of thing. If you're in the States, guys, you'll know the same. So you've got your Home Depot, Harbor Freight would be a good option as well. Even Walmart, but just try and get like a DIY type vacuum. Don't go for a domestic vacuum for the car, just simply because in my experience using them, they don't seem to last as well. Typically the plastic bodies, we've got a stone driveway, so when you're taking the Hoover about, it gets chipped and stuff, whereas the trade ones are typically metal, so if they fall over they might dent, but they're not going to crack. So and the other great thing is you can actually use it so you can flip the hose round the back and use it as a blower as well. So if you pressure wash your mats, for instance, you can then blow them out with the vacuum and then extract them, and it just means you're not filling the vacuum with dead water, so to speak. You're just kind of taking the last stuff out. But always, if you wash your mats, even if they're slightly damp, don't put them back in the car, because that can lead to mold spores and stuff like that. It can just lead to the car being a bit smelly. So leave them out to dry. Hang them up if you can, so that the sun can get to both sides. The other thing that does, the sun's a natural antibacterial, or the strength of the sun. The other thing it can amazingly do is if you've got a stain that's quite difficult to remove, you might find that actually just laying the mat out in the sun after you've washed it will miraculously make the stain disappear, because again, the sun does have a sort of bleaching effect to it. So just use Mother Nature to your advantage. Right, I've got waxes that I need to go and pour now. couple of new ones for you. So there will be, I know you guys love your crystal editions. Some of you do, some of you don't, but here's a new one. So that will be our 80% T1. There will be an 80% T1 version of Ebony. There will be another wax called Passion, which will go into here, so it'll be a purple wax. It will be available in the normal jars, but we'll have a limited run of these. And then last but not least, I've got one of these left, and again, that will be an 80% T1 wax. Done and dusted. So again, these hold quite a lot of wax. Probably about 300 to 350 mil. And the lid's over here just to give you a look at it. So quite a big jar of wax. If you need that amount. A couple other bits we've got, guys, would be the gold edition of Aurum. So this one here, only one left, so make sure you go on and get that. What else have we got? Valentine's Day. So the Valentine's Day wax will get poured today. It's on the website just now. Very limited numbers left. It's been quite popular over the weekend. There is only one size available, so not the usual 50s available. So again, that concentrates down the availability as well. Every single wax will be signed and dated. So again, another wee piece for your collection. But that's me. Enough babbling. Any questions, anything you want me to cover in future videos or whatever, just leave the comment here. Hopefully have a nice day, guys. And if you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments below. And I just need to remind myself some armour. There you go. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.